Have you realized that the only democracy in the Middle East, as they call it, has just censored a news outlet? This news outlet is Al Jazeera, which for me was the best coverage of the massacre in Palestine. The most accurate coverage. This is exactly the reason why it was censored, because it was letting too much out of the truth. We all know there are other means, but this was a big outlet. And yesterday I was watching the press conference with Matthew Miller, and it's a bit of a. I mean, I wouldn't like to be in his place, of course, but the way he does, and the environment of jokes, and it seems like a different reality when you watch Matthew Miller in a press conference, or any other. I mean, but Matthew Miller has this particular touch, an implicit smile all the time, kind of a shy smile. And when asked about all the crimes, because it's what it is about, all the crimes that Israel is committing, genocide, it always responds with huge restraint. Because, you know, the United States have this position that they do not agree with genocide, they do not agree with massacre. They watch Israel's actions closely. They ask about, when something comes up big in the news, they ask Israel, what are you doing there? What is going on? Something like this, which is ridiculous. And they always say, no, we will not interfere, and because Israel has the right to defend, and they have to make sure that October 7 never happens again. And I'm. It's needless to say, I could ask like a minute of silence for the people who believe that crap, right? Because they're already dead in their brain dead. And so yeah, they just censored this channel. And if you think about all the censorship that has been taking place lately in the West, the example of Ukraine is and Russia is very blatant. I mean, you know that Russia invaded Ukraine, right? And since then, a lot of censorship of Russian things, even the use of the Russian flag in the Olympics has been censored. It's ridiculous to this extent, right? And RT News have been censored. Sputnik has been censored. And one wonders, one asks, should ask, even if you don't read anything, if you don't know anything, one should ask if Russia is on the wrong side, if Russia is the evil, if Russia is doing, if nothing good comes from there, why censor? Why censor? What do you want to hide? Of course, there's also the option that Western governments, and the collective West term applies here because Western governments have indeed only one head, which is the US government. Europe it's a bunch of vassals. It's an agglomerate of vassals. It has become that. They treat the public like children. No, but because people might get fooled by what the Kremlin says. It's up to you to think, what kind of leaders do you have guiding your destiny? And the genocide goes on in Gaza with the support of the European Union, with the support of the United States. The United States goes as far to the point as supplying weapons to the aggressor, and sometimes sending these planes with humanitarian aid, which then the people, which when it's dropped, the people flock to these places and get killed. Or other humanitarian convoys goes from Jordan or other countries and get attacked. And the United States just go, we haven't read the report yet to know if all the data about that event. And then on the next page of this soap opera, you see the immediate condemnation of any, and even the use of the terms, the language is Orwellian. For example, Israel is defending itself while it's committing atrocious genocide. But Russia is doing a war of aggression. Brutal war of aggression. You know, all these terms. Israel doesn't do that. Israeli armed forces conducts operations which is in its self-defense interest. Russia conducts brutal war of aggression. And while the people, within all the propagandas that goes inside all the West, all the propagandas that go on within the Western countries that appeal for Western people, from local to international, right? Normally, in the case of Portugal, the narratives come from outside and they are adopted here with the Portuguese face, Portuguese language. And for example, while we are busy demonizing the left, and when I mean the left, it's not the American left, the Portuguese left, like the communists, accusing, always trying to pin millions of murders on the communists with no historical accuracy whatsoever or knowledge what people are talking about. Saying, no, this kind of regimes, they always kill and starve, and while that goes on, that fantasy, and I'm not talking about, we can discuss historical events whenever, but while in the present we are claiming that, the real genocide is taking place wherever the Americans are present, and in this case in Israel. Right? Not long ago, and still going on, Syria, Iraq, with impunity. With impunity. No sanctions. Where are the sanctions to Israel? No, they get aid. They get military aid because the weapons they're using come from the US. And when all this is happening, and of course in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, other things go on. For example, the French had the nerve to officially send troops to Ukraine. Of course, we all know this was going on to some extent, but it was different. When it's admittedly official, the first troops, of course, it's Foreign Legion, so it's like expendable people in the eyes of the French. But this is a big step, right? This is another big provocation from the West. Remember when it all started, that first there would be no military aid, only humanitarian aid. Second, it would be military aid, but only for defensive purposes. And third, okay, military aid, missiles, a new weapon each month. Now we have American boots, English boots on the ground, doing the brain operations. And for me, also operating the high-tech material. Getting involved in a war, if Russia would respond accordingly, imagine if this would go in the United States. If Russia would respond accordingly, we would have World War III already. They have gone beyond that limit. And of course they've been accusing Russia of threatening with nuclear weapons all the time, because they just do that. It's just propaganda. They accuse Russia of doing that, like they haven't done anything to provoke that response. But now the red line is being crossed, and they cross it everywhere. I mean, in the West, the leaders do not seem to have any fear of this. And this is a worrying thing, because the lack of fear can indicate a huge presence of stupidity. It's not courage. Courage is when you are aware of the fear, but still step on, go ahead, aware of the fear, with the fear with you. But when you're just doing things regardless, it becomes very dangerous. It's like children playing with nuclear warheads, right? They are not aware of the danger. And this time Russia has flexed. I think this is the only time that Russia, the talk of Russia and nuclear weapons, is a real one. It's not just a propaganda one. Because if Russia starts seeing in Ukraine Western armies with a real flag declared coming in, then you know that you won't need to be like sending aid to Ukraine, going through all the corruption of Ukrainian authorities, all that inefficiency, all the conflicts with the weapons management and anything. You just bring your whole army in. If the West does this, the danger of the first nuclear weapon to be used, it's real. It is real. And Russia is defending itself. And the West is provoking. And this is the only reality that we have now. It's impossible to argue otherwise. Again, don't come to me with those, but Ukraine is defending itself. We all know the posture that Ukraine had last 10 years, which led to this, with the meddling, of course, of Europe and US. All this is documented, well documented. If you don't know about it, then 1 minute of silence for your soul too, because it's long gone. Yeah. So, and this is what I had to say. Soon it will be 9th of May, Victory Day in Russia. Always worth celebrating. I think more important now to celebrate, because the danger that was suppressed in those days is definitely reborn. It's trying to be rebranded. It's alive in Israel, for example. It's really alive there. It's alive in Ukraine, no matter what people say. Oh, but they only have 2% representation. It doesn't matter. It's not a democracy. The armed groups and the organized groups there who identify with this, this sick ideology, it's real. And they're being washed. Their image is being washed. The Aidar battalion, the Azov battalion, the Krakens, whatever. These morons. Okay, this is the rambling I had for this morning. See you on the next one.